Okay, fam, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the grayscale trust as well as the CPI data. So with that being said, let's get it. All right, so the miners had kind of a nasty sell-off today. I'm assuming we'll cover this in a separate video, but I'm assuming that's based on the earnings from Mara. Look, here's what I got to tell you guys about the earnings, okay? And again, I know this is not about the miners, but this does matter. So look, the earnings or whatever. Okay. I mean, yeah, did they suck? Of course they're going to suck. Well, that's to be expected because over the last 3 months, Bitcoin, well, if we go back 3 months, even from the current month, right? Where was Bitcoin 3 months ago? Well, basically it was at 60,000. So these miners become profitable and they make more money when the price of Bitcoin rises. Okay. The price of Bitcoin was not rising during that time frame. It was falling and chopping sideways. So the markets know this. Okay, the markets are forward looking. They know this. So basically, what I'm telling you all is it was kind of a buy the rumor, sell the news, right? So they're buying the miners as we get into the earnings, and they sell the miners off as the earnings as the earnings comes out bad because it confirms their suspicions, right? And then they're probably just going to buy them up and they're just going to keep going higher into the next earnings because they know on the next earnings, Bitcoin's probably going to be much higher because, again, we're in that time frame in the cycle where Bitcoin should be ripping to 100, 120, 150, 200,000, right? Markets know this. And so looking forward in time for the next 3 months, they're probably going to be buying the miners up, knowing that the miners are profitable. They're probably going to have good earnings, be cash flow positive, all that kind of stuff, okay? So I did also want to talk about the memberships again one more time. So I'll get to that in a minute. So let's see here. I got to go back a little bit. All right. So the CPI data did come out this morning. Again, this is something the Fed looks at. It's one of their many different metrics they look at. I don't know exactly how many they look at, but we have four main ones here that we look at, which is CPI, unemployment, the SOM rule, and I forget what the other one was. There was a fourth one. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's four major metrics we look at to determine whether it's bearish or bullish. In my opinion, there is no impending recession. Talk about that in a minute. So core CPI came in pretty much at expectations. Headline and CPI came in basically at expectations. With the exception of headline inflation. Now, I know, and again, I hate to wax politics, but it does actually play into this, believe it or not. So a lot of people on the Democratic side are going to be like, oh, God, Trump's going to get elected. He's going to cause hyperinflation, blah, blah, blah. A whole bunch of BS fear-mongering. Okay, that's what that is. Guys, look, I'm telling you right now, I'm pretty confident there is not going to be a resurgence of inflation. It does not matter if the Fed cuts the rates down to the floor. It does not matter if the market screamed all-time highs. There's likely not going to be a recession and there's not going to be a resurgence of inflation because there is more at play here than just what's going on in the US in terms of how inflation is acting in the US. Okay, there is external factors that are helping create or cool inflation in the US, like OPEC, for example, and the wars overseas. Okay, a lot of the products that are shipped around the world are coming from overseas, believe it or not. It's called global trade. Most people don't know that exists, but yes, it does. There are ships that literally pack stuff from country to country and ship from country to country, and they do business internationally. Believe it or not, that happens. So, again, I'd have to go back and look at this, but I think Ukraine is like the largest or second largest producer of wheat in the entire world. Well, if Russia's over there dropping nukes or whatever they're doing on Ukraine, and Ukraine's fighting back, and they just have this endless war of attrition, and they're wiping out entire fields of wheat, well, what do you think that does? That creates less demand in other countries, which leads to what? Higher prices. When you have less of something and the same high level of demand, that creates inflation, not just in one country, but every country. So it's good to get rid of these wars, which Trump is going to do, right? And then, of course, produce oil in the United States at record levels, pump oil here and create jobs and whatnot to reduce the cost of gas, which is a key metric in inflation. which will bring inflation down, and then the United States will not need to be so reliable on other countries for oil, like Russia, for example. Nothing against Russia. I've actually had great experiences with Russian people. But when they're going to war with each other, that's not great for the U.S. to try to do business with them in terms of getting access to oil, right? So, anyways, that covers the inflation data. The markets are having a slight pullback in crypto. I mean, that's to be expected. Okay. Uh, whether it's going to keep pulling back or not, I don't know. But I mean, again, like I told you guys, as long as Bitcoin's still in the spotlight, as long as the Bitcoin dominance is going up, likely altcoins are going to chop sideways. They may still go up, of course, that could happen. But as long as the Bitcoin dominance is still climbing, the altcoins may go sideways and even bleed against it, which, of course, does it suck? Sure, but it gives you more opportunity to accumulate. So, like I said, what I expect to happen first, before anything else, is Bitcoin goes up. The Bitcoin miners go up. They scream to all-time highs, right? You get things like MicroStrategy, Coinbase that go up. They scream to all-time highs. Coinbase could actually technically keep going up for the entire bull run because they have altcoin exposure as well. So that happens. Maybe the altcoins go slightly up and or sideways, or kind of up and down, until the Bitcoin dominance drops off, Bitcoin tops out, and then we get the alt season, and then we kind of see whether the grayscale trusts that are altcoin related start ripping or not. Okay, so I think I've gone over that enough. I think I have gone over that enough. Okay, so LTCN's not ripping yet. I know you guys are like, oh, LTCN's not going up. Well, I showed you guys this pattern here, right? So we saw this pattern here where it kind of went up in this channel. Again, you could actually say that was a bear flag because it was in a downtrend, but not really. I mean, this thing was actually in an uptrend. Technically speaking, LTCN over the macro is actually still in an uptrend, and I'm going to tell you why. Because we have higher lows, okay? Higher low, or low, higher low, higher low, higher low, right? Now, if LTCN were ever to get below this low right here at $10, I would say, okay, now maybe it's time to be worried. But that's not the case, okay? You got a low, a high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Now you have here a higher high, or high, two sets of higher lows. Now we just need to get above 54 to create higher highs to continue the bull trend. Again, when in doubt, zoom out. But we saw a very similar pattern back here, and we're seeing the same thing here. So theoretically, it should probably do the same thing that it did here. But again, the cycle of the timing leads me to believe that's what's going to happen. Plus, we also have this golden cross too. So as of right now, the buy zone still remains the same. So you got basically anywhere between 12 to, I'd say, probably about 16, and then, of course, 25 to 54. Now, exactly when these things are going to pop off, to the T, to the day, to the hour, guys, I don't know that. Nobody knows that, okay? Let's be realistic about this. Nobody really knows. I'm just am kind of giving you guys my thesis as to kind of the circumstances in which I think likely this is going to happen, all right? So 350% gain here, BCHG. And again, before I forget this, let me go ahead and cover this. Okay, so look, I can't speak to anybody overseas. I don't know how this works overseas. If you guys are in different countries, maybe this is different for you. But if you guys wanted to join the channel memberships, you can. You just, and again, I don't know about cell phones because I'm not currently on a cell phone when I'm doing this. I am actually on a laptop. So if you guys are on cell phones, it may look different here. I'm not entirely sure how this works. You might have to search a little bit to find it. But there's a join button right here. You can see right next to the channel logo, in between analytics and the channel logo, and then you just click on it. It asks if you want to join this channel or not. You can click the join button and then join or not. Again, it is optional. It is up to you, but I just wanted to show you guys where that is in case you were wondering. Okay, so BCHG, basically pretty much, I would say right about anywhere between the current price to the EMA, so 715 to kind of $7 to $8 somewhere there could be a buy zone. So targets anywhere from 1030 to about 25. Again, if you were loading up at the lows, you don't really care about these metrics because you loaded up way back here. Okay, you're just kind of riding the wave, waiting for these things to scream to all-time highs. So you're not really stressing about this. So 236% gain here. These videos are more for people that are looking to kind of track like if you got in at the lows back here, you're just looking to track the price action up to know where the next levels are and kind of gauge things as the bull run go along. For people that are looking to position trade, this is more where we're talking about the zones here. And of course, if you want to know if we're in a bull and a bear trend and looking to get in at ideal prices, that's kind of what we cover here. All right, so HZEN, still going sideways, but is getting out of that channel. I'd still say about 350 to kind of 420 is that buy zone there. 830 to 1080 is going to be the targets up there. Now, there is something else I wanted to throw out there for you guys. 158% here. So I think the crypto markets will continue to climb as we get into the point, and not just the crypto markets, but the stock markets as well, will continue to climb as we inch closer towards Trump's inauguration. I believe it's on January 20th of next year, okay? So if you guys are seeing these temporary drops and thinking like, oh, God, sky's falling, it's all over with, not so fast, man. I'm not so convinced of that. I think that these pullbacks will happen along the way, of course, because they're healthy, right? In order for a bull market to continue, there has to be at least somewhat of a pullback along the way. But I think overall, the markets as a whole in general probably will be still climbing into the inauguration. Now, what happens after the inauguration, that's hard to say. Generally speaking, Q4 and Q1 is extremely bullish, especially for crypto during the right time of the cycle, which we're in. And it's also very bullish for the stock markets. We usually don't get some kind of hesitation and or standard pullback like 5-10% in stocks or whatever we're going to get in crypto till right around somewhere between March to June. Okay, March, April, May, somewhere in there. But leading up into the inauguration and maybe even after that, we should still see these things go up. All right, so ETCG buy zone, 850 to I'd say about 850 to probably about that 990 would be obviously the most ideal entries here. So 13 to just over 20 for targets here, 135% ETH. Okay, so we are above the EMAs here, so we have not gotten above the zone yet, so it's kind of tricky, but there could be a pullback into the EMAs. So I would say even though the zone has not flipped, you could technically, for now at least, treat this as kind of a buy area. So 2330 to 2850, cup and handle target up there is going to be roughly about $48. So that's about 106% move. And of course, it probably will go much higher than that. When Ethereum dominance eventually gains at some point, once Bitcoin finally has its first major all-time high, which I think we're probably pretty far away from, these two right here should start ripping. Again, there's not perfect correlation with them. It's hard to say exactly when these are going to pop off or how they're going to do it. But as long as crypto's in a bull run, eventually these things will. That's just my opinion. All right, so GBAT support still down here at 450 to 510, and then you got roughly about $8 up to 33 or 32 in this case. So roughly about a 620% gain. FILG or PhilG, so nice little double bottom here. There is also a potential for a W pattern. This one's kind of ugly, but the target would be about $115, which means we would need to get above the EMAs. We're still below the EMAs, but above the supports. So as of right now, the buy zone is 35 to 43. The all-time high would be the first target. Of course, price discovery comes afterwards. We'll cover that in a separate video. That's going to be $400, about 1,000% gain. Okay, GLIV. So this one's trying to retest the EMA's resistance zone. I would say probably anywhere between 7 to about 12. That'd be a good area to buy. And then 1550 to $80 could be potential target areas. It depends on how much of a gain you're looking for here. This one's kind of tricky, like I said, because it's so 1,100% gain. Because look, from a trader's perspective, this could happen one of two ways. Okay, if you're looking strictly to trade, you would see this below the EMAs and below a zone and think, oh, this is a short, right? I want to short this because it's going to go lower. But if you're a buyer, if you're a long, if you're a bull, you're looking for a buying opportunity, dip buying opportunity, right? So that's where this particular area right here comes in, you're going to say, oh, it's going to bounce off of here because it already did before. You had resistance. I'm going to buy here, and then boom, should pop off and theoretically push back into this kind of into these EMAs where the top of the zone is, right? There's always a constant battle in these markets between bulls and bears. That's what you got to understand about this. There's always two sides to the trade. Some people are looking to short the market. Some people are looking to long the market. Some people want to take profits down at the support zones where the bulls are buying. Some people want to take profits at the sell zones where the bears are shorting. It's a very complicated game, but once you understand it in the market psychology, it becomes much easier to understand and kind of prepare for. So G-Link, nice big fat green candle. This thing might be about ready to have its breakout. If you guys own this might be it. Because again, this is a big, fat, large green body, and we have not seen one of those for quite some time. So this could be the breakout right here. Still below the EMA is above support, so 40 to 45 support zone. Targets anywhere from 67 to 220. So if you manage to get a pullback, if it happens, about a 460% gain here. GSOL, this thing's still getting bought up. I'm not really surprised after seeing something like this. I will say, still below that zone, still below that kind of the bottom of the channel there. So I would say at the very least, if I was looking to buy, I'd hold off till about 80. I don't think it's going to go back down there, but it could. If you're sure about yourself and you think it's going to go higher, then 160 to 200 would kind of be your zone. I'll change this for now until we get back above it. So the targets would be anywhere from 300 to roughly about 580 up there. So scenario number one, where you're absolutely terrified, you think this thing's going to drop off a cliff, 600% gain, because you'd be looking for that dip buy. If you're more confident, you're like, well, I think it's going to go higher, then this would be your zone, and then the target would be roughly about 260% gain. Okay, GXLM, same thing here, big fat green candle. That could be a signal right there by itself that this thing's about to scream to the upside. Okay, I'm going to change this to the daily, actually, because I'm curious to see if it got above that white line. It did get above the white line on the daily. Okay, so... and again, I would want to see this confirm on the weekly, but because we got above the daily with a green candle close, I would say 2350 is going to be your buy zones. Again, keep in mind these other zones, 2025 and 14, in case we do get a rejection off the EMAs. The targets up here are going to be between 53 to 70. Again, we'll go over the macro and kind of the bigger targets later on. So in the case where you're more confident, this would be roughly about an 887% gain. If you're terrified and you're like, screw that, I want to wait for 14 again. I mean, if you didn't buy it down here when it was sitting down here for weeks, you may not get another opportunity. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. 372% gain. Meta, same thing, big fat green candle. I want to switch this to the daily. We did actually get a close above the EMAs and above that line on the daily, so that looks good. So support still down here at 10. Target's going to be between 1750 to about 71. All right, so this move would be about 550% gain. Zcash, nice little rejection here. Clearly, whoever is kind of keeping this down in the zones, maybe some kind of whale, maybe they still want to accumulate, I don't know, but or maybe it's just price action, dark pool transactions. It's hard to say exactly what's going on here, but regardless, look, I still look at this as a range. Okay, so it's chopping around in the range. It chopped around down here, then it went up, then it chopped around here, then it went up. Now it's chopping around here, and we're in a higher high, higher low kind of scenario here. So this is a bull trend. So I see this as potentially just another accumulation before breaking out. You guys already know what my numbers are here. So 320 to about, I'd say about $6. And then the swing target up there is 10 1/4. So roughly about a 210% gain. All right. So hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.